Surtout la bienvenue à ceux qui nous regardent ici à TVA Sport et à Sportsnet 360. Et évidemment, les remercier les deux diffuseurs pour leur support jusqu'à maintenant. Comme Québécois, aujourd'hui, c'est une journée très spéciale de développement du sport dans la belle province ainsi qu'au Canada. La première fois que l'UFC est venu ici au Canada, c'est en 2008 dans la province du Québec. Et depuis ce temps-là, c'est devenu une destination vraiment prioritaire pour l'UFC. Le Québec, c'est une place spéciale pour plusieurs raisons. L'UFC a tenu des événements au Québec à 6 reprises et ils ont choisi de tenir ici, au Québec, la première version de Tough Nation, l'ultime combattant. Comme athlète, personnellement, je m'entraîne et je vis ici au Québec et j'ai eu la chance de me produire et de performer ici, dans ma province, à 3 reprises. Comme entraîneur également, eh bien, j'ai été choisi, j'ai eu l'honneur d'entraîner des nouveaux talents au Canada pour faire la relève. Et c'est ici que ça s'est passé, dans Tough Nation. Et le dénouement de cette saison, ainsi que mon prochain combat, va se passer ici, dans la ville de Québec. On est vraiment, vraiment excités, tout le UFC, les dirigeants de l'UFC, les combattants également, avec tous les plans qu'ils ont ici pour le Québec et pour le Canada en 2014. Alors maintenant, pour vous en parler un petit peu plus, je vais vous présenter le directeur des opérations pour l'UFC au Canada, en Nouvelle-Zélande et en Australie, M. Tom Wright.
Merci, Pat. Merci beaucoup, Pat. Comme Pat a dit, aujourd'hui est un jour très spécial dans le croissant et le développement de notre sport dans cette province et aussi le reste de notre pays. For me, it's fabulous to be back here in Quebec. I've been coming to this amazing city and this amazing province for more than 30 years. Every time I come here, I'm reminded about the rich political history, the rich cultural history, and just how beautiful your city is. And also, you can't help but be reminded of what a great sports city Quebec is. From the storied Quebec City Marathon to your wildly popular crashed ice. Of course, the Les Ramparts, who can ever forget them, and the Nordiques. Very important, and one of the things I love about this province and this city is, of course, Université Laval and the Rouge et Or, the inaugural Canada Winter Games, and of course, the International Pee Wee Hockey Tournament. Quebec has virtually seen it all and done it all. And when it comes to mixed martial arts, as Pat touched upon, the province of Quebec and in particular has been a worldwide leader on so many levels. Montreal's TriStar Gym and BTT Canada are just examples of two of the outstanding training centers that have been able to develop our athletes across this country. Champions, contenders, and up-and-coming prospects have emerged from Quebec. Everybody is familiar with Georges St-Pierre, of course, Patrick Cote, of course, Rory McDonald, and some other athletes that you're going to see here today represent just how strong our country is in developing mixed martial arts strength and athletes. Since 2008, Canada has hosted a total of 14 events in our country. We've welcomed almost 300,000 fans to those events. We've sold in excess of $60 million worth of tickets to those events, and we've generated tens of millions of dollars more in economic activity in the cities that we bring our events to. And the UFC have set records in these cities across the country, from Calgary Saddledome to the MTS Center in Winnipeg, to the Bell Center in Montreal, to the Rogers Center in Toronto. We have set records when we come, and we have every hope that when we come to Quebec City, to the Colisée Pepsi in April of this year, that we'll be able to set some new records. Looking back on 2013, it was an extremely successful year for us. We held 3 great events across this country in Montreal, Toronto, and Winnipeg. At the national level, we saw the passing of Bill S-209, formally legalizing professional mixed martial arts in our country, which is a very, very important initiative as we work hard to develop our sport in all parts of our country. At the provincial level, we saw in British Columbia the establishment of an athletic commission And we also saw the initial steps to establish an athletic commission in the province of Saskatchewan as well. And from an athlete level, we continue to see the strong work that has been going on here in Canada. We've been able to add a women's division to the Ultimate Fighting Championships with a new bantamweight division, which is recognized, and Canada, have 3 of the top 15 fighters in the bantamweight division in our ranks. And of course, we also saw the development and the shooting, and which is now premiered, of the Ultimate Fighter Nations, Canada versus Australia, featuring Canada's own Pat Cote as one of the coaches against Kyle Noak from Australia. And so with all these developments that paved the way through 2013, we're looking forward to 2014 with an unprecedented opportunity for us to bring 5 live events to Canada. For the past 3 years, we've always had 3 live events in Canada, but for the first time ever, we will be bringing 5 fights to Canada. And with that, I'm going to invite Patrick Cote up. And he's actually going to be announcing our first event. Patrick?
Oui, bien, on est très fiers d'annoncer que l'UFC va finalement venir dans la ville de Québec le 16 avril. Et je vais me produire dans cette carte-là. Je vais affronter l'entraîneur de l'équipe d'Australie, Kyle Noak, donc le 16 avril ici, dans la belle capitale de la ville de Québec.
I think it's great that our first ever Ultimate Fighting Championship was shot not only in this province, but we have the opportunity to bring the finale first ever to Quebec. Pat, you have a rich history with the Ultimate Fighting Championship. You just spent 6 weeks in very, very close quarters with the coach of the Australian team, Kyle Noak. You know, you've been a tough finalist before. You watched and spent 6 weeks in very close quarters. You've had a chance to see how he coaches. You have a chance to see how he ends up cornering. How does that experience, I think, set you up for your fight? Because as you know, Kyle and Pat will be fighting on the finale at the Colisée.
Yeah, you know, I've been part of this show as a contestant, and being part of this show as a coach, that was a huge honor for me, especially representing my country too. And you know, we try to help those guys, you know, from both teams to have you know, a good guys to coming back in the UFC, because we're getting older. You know, we're not going to be there all the time. So we try to build, you know, those guys coming to take our place later in the future. And for me, you know, I train very hard right now. You know, I already started my training camp 3 weeks ago, because this is a very important fight for me. I'm coming back where everything started for me. I start my MMA career here in Quebec City, and that's very important for me to come here and deliver it.
You know, you mentioned that you started your MMA career here in Quebec City, and you fought not only here in Canada, but you fought in Brazil, you fought in the United States, you fought around the world. You know, how have you seen the sport of mixed martial arts develop in this province over those years? You're one of our true veterans. You've fought for championship. You've changed weight classes. You've seen this sport develop. And how has it been for you here?
You know, my first fight in the UFC was 10 years ago, in 2004. So, you know, I saw a lot of things in this sport. I saw that, you know, especially with the show, The Ultimate Fighter, especially in the U.S., after this show, the sport just exploded. And I hope it's going to be the same thing here in Quebec and Canada with tough nations. And, yeah, like you said, I fought for the title, and I had a big up and big down, but, you know, I will all the time be able to come back. But it's, I think people start to understand more what is the sport, and we are professional athletes, and this is a real sport. This is not just a game. You know, we go there, we train full time, we train like Olympians. Trust me, it's not it's not an easy way. But every time we try to, you know, to fight very hard and give the best show as possible.
That's great. And if you haven't had a chance to watch it on TVA Sports here in Quebec and on Sportsnet 360 in English Canada, it's an amazing show. And not only for the Ultimate Fighter finale here in Quebec City, which will feature Pat fighting Kyle Noak, we've also announced on the card that Ontario's own Sam Stout will be fighting against KJ Nunes. And from Sudbury, Ontario, Mitch Gagnon will be fighting against the American bantamweight Tim Gordon. And as the days and the weeks come forward, we'll be announcing more and more fights for this card, which I think is going to be a fantastic night, April the 16th for mixed martial arts here in Quebec. Tickets for the finale, I should point out, will go on sale at the end of next month on Friday, February the 28th to the general public. If you happen to be a member of the UFC Fight Club, you can get your tickets on the Wednesday, February the 26th. And a special newsletter opportunity for fans to buy tickets will be on February 27th, the Thursday of that week. So from this part of the country, we're going to go all the way over to the other side of the country, to beautiful British Columbia. And I would like to welcome Canadian bantamweight from Victoria, BC, Sarah Kaufman. And Sarah, I know that you're originally from Victoria, and lots of things are going on in the city of, the province of British Columbia. But is there anything particular you'd like to tell the group about today?
There's definitely been a lot this year that's happened with the BC getting the commission and everything like that, and it's really exciting that the UFC will be coming back to Vancouver on June 14th for UFC 174, and it's going to be again at the Rogers Arena. Fabulous,
and this will be our third visit to the city of Vancouver, which we're really excited about doing. Sarah, you're a former Strikeforce champion. You're ranked number 6 in the world for bantamweight in women. Give us a sense what it's like to from your perspective you've watched the development of mixed martial arts in this country, but what it's like to watch it from a woman's perspective, and now you have a chance to compete.
Well, to have been a part of a lot of the first female fights that have happened in Canada, to see the UFC bringing the bantamweight division and now the 115-pound division kind of to the world and to a bigger exposure has been so great for the development of women in the sport in general. It's allowed for younger generation. We're seeing 3-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 12-year-olds getting into the sport for a sport first, but also having the opportunity to develop and take it to a career path if they choose to.
That's awesome. I mean, it's interesting that your first pro fight was I guess about 8 years ago in Vancouver, and 18 fights later, you have the prospect, the possibility of fighting in your home province. That must be pretty exciting.
Vancouver and British Columbia are beautiful cities, and they're huge sports fanatics there. And having my very first fight in Vancouver, only once since then have I fought in BC at all. And so the opportunity to be able to fight in front of my hometown crowd, in my country, with just avid fans of the sport would be an amazing opportunity that I hope that I'm on the June 14th card.
Well, I can assure you I'm going to do everything I can to make sure you're on that card as well, because I think there would be nothing greater than for you to have a chance to fight in front of your family and your hometown as well. So thank you very much, Sarah. So from beautiful British Columbia, we're actually going to come east again to Canada's largest province, which happens to be Ontario. And I'd like to welcome Canadian lightweight Sam Stout from London, Ontario. Sam, Hands of Stone Stout, who I'm sure is no stranger to everybody here. And we are really excited to be announcing that the third fight on the Canadian schedule in 2014 will be UFC 178, which will be occurring at Toronto's Air Canada Centre on Saturday, September the 27th. And nothing better than to have Sam here. The opportunity, he's one of our longest serving Canadian fighters. He's had 30 fights over an 11-year career. He's one of those fighters that always brings it, that is one of those guys that traditionally wins Fight of the Nights. I think he won 7 Fight of the Nights in total, 6 by knockout and 1 by submission. And but Sam, you've been around our sport for a long time. We worked really hard to get our sport sanctioned and regulated in Ontario, and this will be our 4th time we've come to Toronto. Give us a sense from your perspective as a fighter and as an individual that is a partner in a training center in London, Ontario. What's happening with the grassroots the grassroots development in Ontario?
It was really exciting for me when when MMA became legalized in Ontario, it was, you know, I always had to come to the province of Quebec early in my career to get fights and you know, travel all around and fly around the country. And it's great to see the opportunity for younger guys coming up in my gym to be able to fight in Ontario and not have to, you know, not have to go so far. Not that I minded coming out to Quebec and Montreal and coming to visit this part of the country, because I really love it here. But it's nice, you know, for the guys to be able to fight a little closer to home. That being said, I would like to see, you know, some more smaller shows popping up. It's a little difficult right now with, you know, the financial constraints that the Ontario Athletic Commission is putting on some of the promoters, and it's very expensive to put on a show, which makes it very difficult for the smaller organizations to build. And I'd like to see that change, but it's great to be able to see, you know, some of the newer guys at my gym be able to fight so close to home.
You know, it's interesting that you say that, Sam, about the development of the sport at the grassroots level, because, you know, when we opened up our office in Toronto back in 2014 and 2010, our mandate was to take our sport and grow it across the country as quickly as possible. And you spoke specifically about what's going on in Ontario with the Athletic Commission. I can tell you, interestingly, tomorrow I have a meeting with government officials in Ontario to speak just to those issues, because what we want to do when you're trying to build a new sport, when you're trying to grow a sport, you have to make sure that it's as accessible to as many individuals as possible. You want to have individuals and fighters have a chance to compete, to learn their trade, and hopefully have an opportunity to compete at the highest level, which would be the UFC. And so I think it's incumbent on us to work hard with the government in Ontario to try to improve the situation so that more local promotions can come forward and more things can be done to help grow the sport in that province. But, you know, apart from that, you know, for selfish reasons, we're pretty excited to have Sam on the card here in Quebec City. He's fighting KJ Nunes. It's just going to be a really, as he would say, a fight of the night candidate. Of your 30 pro fights, I think 15 have been here in Quebec. You know, what's it, you know, as a fighter, what's it like fighting in this province? It must be a lot of fun.
I always love coming back here, and like I mentioned early, you know, my career started here. I fought in a promotion based out of, you know, out of the province of Quebec, and so I really feel like it's a home away from home, or a second home for me when it comes to my MMA career. So I always get a warm reception from the French fans. I, you know, always feel like the crowd's always behind me, and I'm really excited to fight here in Quebec City. And I'll actually be the first time I fought in Quebec City. I fought in the province 15 times out of my 30 professional fights, but this will be the first time in Quebec City. I'm very excited about it, and I have a great opponent that I think is really going to give me a chance to showcase, you know, what I'm made of, and you know, hopefully come out and get another fight of the night and really have a good crowd-pleasing fight.
That's great. Well, I mean, this guy does deliver when it comes to crowd-pleasing fights. So having Sam on the card is terrific. So we've gone from Quebec City to British Columbia, to the far coast, and then the middle of the country, and now we have a chance to bring somebody up who represents the other coast, a little east of here, from Cole Harbour, Nova Scotia, Canadian lightweight, ranked number 3 in the world. Please welcome TJ Grant. And we're excited that TJ's here. We've always said that we wanted to take our sport from coast to coast, and we now have an opportunity to do that. A week after we celebrate the UFC in Toronto, we're heading to the Halifax Metro Centre. For the first time, the UFC is coming to Atlanta, Canada, for a UFC Fight Night on Saturday, October the 4th, in beautiful downtown Halifax. And I, for one, can hardly wait. Must be exciting for TJ. He's fought a lot in that province. You've had an opportunity to grow up there. The prospect of the UFC coming to your province and Halifax must be pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's really it's incredible. You know, the sport was, you know, it was banned everywhere, and I was fortunate enough to fight on the very first shows. My very first professional fight was in Halifax. You know, it was the very first show that they have ever had, and you know, I've had the opportunity to fight a lot of different places all over Canada. And especially in the UFC, I've always felt, like I was the home guy, and but Halifax is truly home, and for me, there's no crowd like it, and it's just going to be an honor to obviously have them come here. Hopefully, I'm a part of it, and I'm glad that I'm still in the prime of my career, and I'm not a dinosaur, so the UFC has finally made it, and it's going to be awesome.
Well, it's the prospect of having you on a Halifax card would be just amazing. 2013 was an exciting year for TJ. You had a chance to contend for, and you got a title shot. On the family front, Casey joined the Grant family. His daughter was born, I think, in July or August, and that's always an exciting time. But so it was a year of sort of some ups and downs. How are you feeling about your prospects going forward?
Yeah, I mean, 2013 overall, I'd say it was an amazing year for me. I got married. We had a baby girl. So I mean, it was an incredible year. I had some success in my fights. I got injured, but it's all in the past now. I'm just looking at getting building off last year and recovering and moving on to the next step. Hopefully I want to get back in there and get at that title.
Well, thanks, TJ. One of the things that makes me so very proud when I have a chance to go around the country is to know that we've got ambassadors like these athletes representing our sport from all corners of our country, representing different parts, but most importantly, representing our country so well. We're really fortunate. So thanks, TJ. And so in 2014, we're going to start in Quebec City, and as chance would have it, we're also going to end in this province. With UFC 181 slated for the Bell Center in Montreal on Saturday, December the 6th, UFC 181. And helping us with the introduction of that is Alex Garcia. Alex, I first met Alex back in December in Brisbane when he scored a first-round knockout of a guy by the name of Ben Wall in 43 seconds, I think it was. So you made quite an impression down in Brisbane. Can you speak about that was your first UFC experience? What was that like?
Yeah, it was my first UFC experience. I like this. I finally made it to the UFC. So, the whole vibe and the people how they treated me, and all the stuff. I really like it. It was amazing. I finally made it to the UFC and knocked the guy out in 42 seconds. So I was very happy with myself.
That's great, and what you may not know about Alex is he's originally from the Dominican, but Montreal is his new home, and tell us a bit about what it's like to come to not only a new country but to a new home, and the kind of support system that you found, and how fighting has allowed you to adapt so well to your new home.
When I came here in 2009, in the beginning of, especially to move here because I didn't speak English, French at all, just Spanish, so it was a little bit hard for me to communicate with people. After I moved here, I met a lot of people. I met GSP also, USMPA. I met a lot of guys in TriStar, and they tried to treat me well, like I was home. And training, and living the experience with them, it was fine. Like now, Montreal for me is like my second home. I want to stay here forever.
Well, you've picked a nice city and a nice province to do that. So ladies and gentlemen, for the first time ever, Canada will be hosting 5 live events. You've got 5 incredible UFC athletes representing each of those cities. What I'd also like to announce is that we will also be taking the UFC into 4 other communities with a program that we call UFC Experience. UFC Experience is all about taking our sport and our athletes and our brand and our message into communities that most likely will never host a UFC event, but we know we've got great fans. We're looking at going into British Columbia, into Alberta, into Saskatchewan, and also into Ontario with the UFC Experience. And when the clock sets at the end of 2014, we will have been in 6 of Canada's 10 provinces and truly have had an opportunity to bring our sport, our athletes, and our message to as many locations as possible. So I want to thank everybody for coming. Remind everybody that the Ultimate Fighter Nations is broadcast every Wednesday on TVA Sports here in Quebec and on Sportsnet 360 in the rest of the country. We will be back here in Quebec City to announce the details and the pricing for our top finale at the Colisée on April the 16th. Tickets go on sale at the end of February, and I'd like to break it up now, and we'll have some pictures with the groups. So thank you very much for coming. Everybody be available for one-on-ones after this as well.
Vous allez vivre un moment historique. Oh! Quel coup de pied à la tête! What a roar from this crowd. This is amazing. Bonsoir,